Welcome to another edition of the Camel Clutch Blog Extra podcast. And today I'm joined once again by a man who's turned out to be my partner in podcast crime, Brian Fritz of BetweenTheRopes.com. Brian, how are you today?
Good. Do we get a cool sound effect like the old Batman show?
Maybe next time. Maybe when I'm a little more prepared. Well, and I'll give you a whole presentation like the network. I'll give you a whole presentation.
I like that. I like the grandiose music.
My favorite, Brian, was seeing the guys like that Preston and that Michelle get their own entrance music. I thought that was tremendous.
Sure, why not, man? That's the funny thing about WWE. And I'm not saying it's not professional. It's just what they are. But It's funny that they roll out these big professional, presentations and everything, and everybody still comes out to their own music if they are actually performers in the company.
It's the best. And, before we move any further, that's what we're here to talk about today is WWE Network. We're going to throw around what we know, maybe get a little inside information here from Brian, talk about the presentation. Before we actually get into the meat of the network, what'd you think of the presentation?
I thought the presentation was really good. I know some people thought maybe it was a little bit cheesy, but you know what? A presentation is supposed to be towards the wide array of an audience. So I thought they did a really good job in trying to give out as much information about it as you can. I mean, there's always going to be questions about it, but when you look at the entire scope of everything and be able to show some of the functionality of it, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. What I took away from that, at least in the beginning anyway, was, I'd heard for a while, and I'm sure you have as well, that they've really been trying to position themselves as sport with their deals coming up and trying to get one of those sports contracts from one of the big networks. And what was really interesting to me is that they've been trying to position themselves as sport for the last several months, yet this whole presentation, no sport whatsoever. This was all about entertainment. There was very little wrestling in the videos. I mean, it was as if this was an entertainment company and, forget about sport, forget about wrestling. It's just pure entertainment.
They are saving that presentation for when they do the pitch for TV. Because that will help with the numbers. Spending more money. We're sport. Yeah, we're entertainment, but so is NBA and so is NFL and so is hockey and so is baseball. They're entertainment as well. It's just we have a better grasp on entertainment, but we're sport as well. We're like you guys.
Yeah, it's like we were just telling them that we were entertainment, but we're really sport. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Exactly. Like you and I, we've been doing this for a while, so we know each other better. We can cut through all the bull. We know. We're sport. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you know what else? To wrap up the presentation, what was probably my favorite part of the entire presentation was, I think his name was Preston. Was that his name, Preston?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to pick on him, but I thought it was very funny that of all of the videos and all of the media available in this brand and this grandiose WWE library online, Preston had just got done watching Battleground again.
Right. Was it Battleground or was it Royal Rumble? He was watching a pay-per-view that morning. I was like,
it was Battleground because I tweeted about it. It was definitely Battleground, he said.
Like, right. That's what you were doing this morning. I was watching a pay-per-view. Mm-hmm.
But Battleground of all pay-per-views?
He wanted to make sure that the criticism was justified or not.
Yeah, I was just watching Night of Champ. I was just watching, the ECW December. I mean, he'll just run down the worst pay-per-views in the company. I could have watched WrestleMania 2000. I could have watched WrestleMania, from last year. But I watched Battleground this morning.
I would have preferred if you had done something like, since I have access to this library, and he pulled out something really cool, and everybody's like, oh, man.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into the network. So I've been accused of being a little bit of a negative Nancy, so to speak, when it comes to the network. I've been blogging about it quite a bit over the last couple of months, and I see a lot of hurdles that they have to overcome. I think it's a great idea, but first, I guess, big picture here, Brian, is my concern is that it's too good too soon. In that, I don't know if the technology is there yet in everybody's house to accommodate this kind of streaming media. I don't know if enough people have the infrastructure to do it. I don't know if the WWE, I know they're using MLB's packaging, MLB's technology. I don't know if their technology is there yet. I think it's a great idea, but I almost think it's a little bit too soon.
Well, that's one of the things that they talked about even when they did the conference call the other day was talking about the overall value. And I think WWE would have loved to have charged more money, and I'm sure investors would have too. And I think maybe they could have gotten the same number of viewers or subscribers when it comes to instead of pricing themselves at $9.99, maybe $12.99 or $14.99. And then you're getting more money, obviously, for the same value or for the same library and everything that you're getting. It's just I think they were worried about the price point because they are going to be compared to Netflix and Hulu Plus and everything like that. So they wanted to make sure like we keep the price competitive. We don't want people going, well, look at Netflix, man. They're only $7.99.
Yeah.
And we cost, double that almost. So I think they wanted to make sure they stayed away from that. And the big thing that they wanted to drive in everybody is look at everything that you're getting. There is a ton of value. This is why you should sign up, and this is why you should keep signing up. And I think that's why, too, they're going to be doing a slow rollout when it comes to the video library that they have and the 150,000 hours that they have and only putting out, 1,500 hours of it right off the bat. So that way they can keep that value up and saying, okay, this is why you should re-up. Not only are you going to get these pay-per-views each month, which are not going to really be pay-per-views anymore.
Yeah.
But you're also going to get access to more in our video library. Oh, you were a fan of the AWA. Well, guess what? We just put up another 50 hours of AWA programming. Okay, you were a fan of Mid-South. Guess what? We've got that video library, and we're going to put up some more content. So I think that's one of the things that they really need to push to people is that we've got all this footage from the library, and we're going to keep cranking it out and make sure people know, hey, by the way, coming up here in a couple of weeks or coming up tomorrow, whenever it is, that footage is going to be made available.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point because that's kind of one of the things that worried me. I mean, for somebody like me, obviously, you and I are gonna get this network because we do this for a living and we cover it. So for people like us, it's a no-brainer, and at $9.99, it just makes it that much easier. But if I took my blog out of the equation, I took my podcast out of the equation, and had no vested interest in that, but I'm just looking at it as Eric Gargiulo fan, I'm getting this network for those old libraries, for those old Madison Square Garden shows, those old Spectrum shows. I mean, that's what when I do have some rare free time, that's what I do on YouTube. That's what I look up. I look up old MSG shows or old Philly Spectrum shows or old TVs from like the early 80s, late 70s. And what was a little concerning to me was they talked about this 1,500 hours that they're putting up there. And they talked about all these hours that they're going to eventually put up there. But they never really put an emphasis on the old shows. All they really said was Raws, SmackDowns, WCW, WWE, ECW pay-per-views, ECW television. I'm assuming some WCW television as well. The WrestleManias, obviously, because I love that WrestleMania Rewind show. All the pay-per-views, all the WWE pay-per-views. But that stuff's out there now, and that's not what appeals to somebody like me. I want to go deeper. I want to go into the classics on demand, and I guess I'm a little concerned that when this network launches, a lot of that stuff that I'm looking for isn't going to be there because if you look at the totality of the hours, all those Raws, SmackDowns, all those ECW, WCW, WWE pay-per-views, those are a lot of hours right there, and those are a lot of hours that are taking up this 1,500 or however many hours they're putting up there, whereas you have this entire library of old shows that they really didn't even talk about.
Yeah, I think the one thing that they do when it comes to that is they will push like, we've got this already available when it comes to WCW and ECW and even their own content that's made available. And they got that library, for all these other promotions. They didn't push it that hard, but that's more, I think, for people like you and me that have been longtime wrestling fans. And we're still wrestling fans. And because of that, we look at the value in this and not only getting access to that library, but we want to see the monthly pay-per-views. We want to see WrestleMania, but we want to see every pay-per-view that they do per month. So that's why we get the value out of it. Now, there's going to be other people that maybe aren't as ardent fans, and they go, whoa, look at that video library they've already got up. To them, what they already have is very appealing. So that adds to the value right off the bat. And then they'll get that extra value along the way. So I think that's the way they look at for us is like, yep, we're going to be there because we like watching every pay-per-view a month. And, it's cool to have that library and we want more. But I think for a vast part of the audience that they hope to gain, it's they look at that library that's already there and they're wowed by it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And going back to a point that I made earlier about this coming too soon is this whole idea of having the technology in place, the Wi-Fi. I work for a technology company, and you can have the best product in the world, but if you don't have the right infrastructure to run it, it's not going to run properly, and your customers are going to be upset. And I just wonder how many people are up to speed, no pun intended, with their Wi-Fi. I have FiOS, and for whatever reason, when I sign up for FiOS, they bump me up to the quantum speed. So for somebody like me, it's not going to be a problem. But that's an extra, that's an add-on. A lot of people that I know don't have that. And then there was just that deal the other day about Verizon winning a case against Netflix, and I don't know all the details of it, but I know that they were upset that people are using all this bandwidth on their internet to stream Netflix and all this streaming content, and yet nobody's paying extra for it. And now a judge is saying that, yeah, your Netflix, your WWE Network, you can't just ride this for free. You're going to have to pay extra for it. And there's all these stories out there about all the major cable companies starting to charge a lot more for Wi-Fi in the future. So my point being is, I'm a 9-year-old kid. I'm a teenager. I'm an adult. I know what I need to do. But I'm a 9-year-old kid, and I see this, and I go to my dad, and I go to my mom, and I say, can we sign up for this network? It's $9.99 a month. Now we don't have to pay, $60 for pay-per-views a month. Of course, mom and dad are going to say, sure, why not? You're a good kid. Let's do it. Then you sign up for it. The kid goes to sign on and watch WrestleMania or watch Elimination Chamber or watch anything, and he's got slow speeds, he's got buffering issues. Then he goes to mom and dad. Mom and dad call the cable provider, like, hey, you only have this kind of internet access. You need to bump up your speeds to this. So now you're talking, in addition to the $9.99, you're talking another $10 to $15 a month. Now you're looking at a $25 per month surcharge. And mom and dad are going to say, whoa, wait a second here. So I think that that aspect of this is really being discounted, especially when they look worldwide, because worldwide, a lot of the world isn't even up to speed with even close to where we are with streaming internet. So I think there are a lot of questions that I have there that I really didn't hear answered at the presentation.
Yeah, the access you have to internet and the speed that you have, I thought was a big thing, because you not only need to have internet, but as much as people like you and me might have the faster speed of internet, there's a lot of people that either don't have internet at home or they have the minimal speed that you can get.
Yep.
Now, that's probably not going to be good enough for a WWE Network. And, I have Major League Baseball Network, and sometimes there's a few issues with that. Now, what they do on the Major League Baseball Network is, if you're watching it on a stream, you can make it easier to watch, but the quality in the picture is going to be less. They give you like 5 different options when it comes to how clear the picture is.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if that's something that they would do here. Netflix does not do that, but Netflix, every now and then there's a little buffering problem. So that's something you're going to have to watch, because to me, it's not the first day. It's not that first Monday when you can sign up for it, and then that night when you can watch it. To me, the biggest night for them is WrestleMania, because that's one of the things that they're selling, in that you want to see the biggest spectacle of them all in WrestleMania. Well, guess what? Now you can get it for $9.99 a month, be a part of the WWE Network. And all these people are going to be watching it. And if you have a problem with WrestleMania and you disrupt people, and that's like their one wrestling pay-per-view a year that they like, or one of their favorite events, and you screw that up, well, there goes your first impression with your customer. And people might be saying, I don't know if I want to go back to this. They already had a problem. I'm upset with them. I don't want to go back to it. Even if they say, we fixed the problem, it's better, there's going to be plenty of skeptical people.
Yeah, and what's the agreement? If you have problems with WrestleMania and you can't watch it, can you call up the WWE Network the next day and say, I want to cancel? You're signed up for 6 months, but does the agreement look like? I haven't seen it. I don't know if you have. I'm going to guess, Brian, that you're not going to be able to get out of it if that's a problem.
You'll probably get a free T-shirt out of it. Instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. And by the way, that's one of the things that they did talk about in the conference call the other day, or kind of alluded to, is that they're going to be doing all these quote unquote bang for your buck promotions, to where not only you get all as I'm dying here. Not only do you get all the value when it comes to the video library and the pay-per-views and all the original content, but I think what they're going to do is some cross promotion from a standpoint of, guess what? Order the WWE Network today, and the next time they run a house show in your area, we'll get you half price off, or we'll give you.
It's a great idea.
How about right now we give you a coupon code to where you can go to WWE Shop right now, use the code WWE Network 2014, and get 50% off a T-shirt of your favorite superstar.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea, actually.
They're probably going to be doing a lot of things like that.
Yeah. So, jumping around here a bit, one of the big concerns that I had as well, and I had talked about this a couple of months ago on my blog when word leaked out that they might put on WrestleMania for free or for an extra fee or whatever. And I had never heard that they were considering, just putting everything out there. I thought it was just a little bit, but, now that we know that they're going to put every single pay-per-view on the network, how does that affect the pay scale of the wrestlers? Because a lot of these guys rely on that Mania payoff, which most will tell you is the biggest payoff they have of the year, especially if you're in the mid to upper card. Even to get on the card, you're getting a decent payoff. And, this completely blows up the contract structure. Not that they're contracted, they're independent contractors, of course, but this completely blows up the agreement that they have with the with talent. And I could see this going a couple of different ways. One, you're going to have some guys in the company that have made so much money that they could just walk away if they want to, and then just cherry pick their dates here and there just to keep wrestling. And those guys that don't see that big payoff anymore on the horizon, maybe they'll do that. There's a lot of guys that haven't made that big money yet, or haven't put that money aside, that will stick around no matter what. Or the WWE, they're going to have to come to a point where they put these guys on salary and make them real employees and give them some kind of benefits, which at that point would probably blow up the stock, and not in a good way. And looking into the crystal ball here, and you may have some more information on this, I believe the first case study that we'll see involving this will be CM Punk, who reportedly has his contract coming due in the summertime. And it's going to be very interesting to me to see, A, if he resigns, and B, and I don't know if details will leak out. I guess they would, because they're a public company, what kind of a deal he's going to get as the first real, big gun to have his contract due.
Right. And I almost wonder, could it be restructured in a manner where you get more guaranteed money rather than, or your downsized guarantee is increased? Because that's the way WWE does their scale right now, is they have this formula that nobody knows. Like, only like 3 people have a decoder ring to figure out exactly how it works. And basically you get X amount of money, but then you get more based on pay-per-views you appear on, TV appearances, house show, pay-per-view, where you are on the card on all these shows. So, it's just kind of this wacky formula that they use. And the other thing is too, that's going to be very interesting when it comes to this is some people believe that there will be a decreased value in the pay-per-views, because now, rather than WrestleMania is a big deal and you got to pay big bucks to get it. You got to pay your, $70 to get it now, whatever, in HD. So now you can get it for $10.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that the pay structure is different for that, you're decreasing the value. And does WWE feel as much of a need to say, well, WrestleMania is a big deal, so we got to go out of our way to bring in big stars?
Yeah.
Whether that means I got to bring in somebody from the past and they're going to, want some money. We're going to bring in a celebrity. We're going to do this or that. All those extra things they do for WrestleMania, do they feel a need to still continue to do that?
Yeah. It's a really big question. And let's talk a little bit about WrestleMania, because we started to see the first blowback come from DirecTV, from a pay-per-view satellite provider saying, hey, wait a second here. Why would we sit back and allow you guys to throw these pay-per-views on your stream for $9.99 essentially, although it's the network you're paying for $9.99, but they're looking at it, you're paying for these pay-per-views for $9.99. WrestleMania is a part of this network, and yet we're going to provide this and bank on 50% of this revenue, which will probably be minimal at this point. It's minimal in the first place from the WWE standpoint. And I have to wonder, Brian, with their network deals, with the network deal now up for bidding, the Raws, SmackDowns, and all that stuff, the television deals up for bidding. I have to wonder if this is almost intentional on Vince McMahon's part. If this is some kind of a grand master strategy here, in that he wants the pay-per-views to kick them off, which would essentially release the WWE from their contracts, because they do have contracts with these companies. But if the companies release them from the contracts, so be it. And then for Vince to go to one of these networks and throw WrestleMania into the bidding as part of this, and to turn WrestleMania into like the Super Bowl and the World Series, where it's on network TV.
That would be a very interesting thing to try to do. I hadn't even thought about that, and I wonder how much money they could get when it comes to advertising or something like that. Because, see, I mean, when it comes to these TV deals, one of the things I always wondered about is, okay, and because you could do so many different things when it comes to what can be proposed for TV, and we've seen that in the past. That's who's not to say that, okay, so Fox Sports, say they're in the bidding, and FS1 would carry Raw. Who's not to say that as part of that deal that Fox on their main channel says, we'll give you 3 or 4 specials a year, just like we do the UFC.
Right.
So, so you've got your Saturday night's main event, your whatever, Clash of Champions, whatever you want to call it. So you've got that available. And then you could make a big deal out of those things. Could they, how much interest would there be in something like that? Would that take away from the WWE Network? I would think that's one of the big things that they want to keep in the network. Why they wouldn't do that. But you never know how fancy these things can get. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody says, hey, you know what, could you do this? And we'll give you this much more money. I think one of the things I wish had gotten brought up in the investors call, because I wanted to see how investors would react to this, is if somebody said, okay, you've obviously irritated DirecTV and the cable companies because of taking pay-per-view, putting it on the network, and they're not going to make as much money from that. So they're upset. Now, how do you think one of the major pay-per-view companies or our cable companies is Comcast?
Yeah.
Comcast owns a majority share of NBC Universal, where currently you have a television deal with, and they're going to be in the bidding for your new television deal. Does that adversely affect or have any kind of effect on your negotiations for your TV contracts?
Definitely.
Where maybe they say, you know what? You're screwing us on pay-per-view. So guess what? We're not going to offer you $200 million a year. We only want to offer you $150 million a year. And then what if somebody else that's also in the bidding gets wind of that and says, oh man, we were thinking about bidding 225, but now we get wind that they're not going to offer as much, or they're a little bit gun shy about it and they're upset. Well, hell, maybe we won't have to offer as much when we can get WWE at a cheaper price.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then and streaming content, putting content online is a big deal these days for the networks. And what if, I mean, they're saying now that Raws and SmackDowns are going to be on the network. What if this network that's bidding for them says, hey, we're paying $200 million, we're paying whatever it is. We want this content exclusively on our website. And yeah, at the same time, WWE, they've already committed to their fans that this content is going to be on the new network. It's, the timing of this all is just very interesting. I mean, in a sense,
it's done that way on purpose, I think. I think WWE, I know that they aligned everything for TV on purpose, but I don't think there's any coincidence that they're rolling out the network at the same time. Because when I look back on it, I was like, that's a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
One for like this small little window of time, but they're doing it on purpose because they feel like they can squeeze everybody and get the most money and most value out of it.
Yeah, and I wonder if part of it is at the end of the year, when you look at the network, if they're expecting losses from the network, but obviously they're going to have a huge gains from the rights fees deal. And I wonder if they're looking at it that way, that if they would have rolled out the network in a year where they weren't getting these rights fees deal, that their shareholders probably would have been a lot more upset than at the end of the year looking at the bottom line where everything kind of levels out.
Yeah, I think it's all done for a reason. This is all very strategic. They believe that all the cards are on the table, and they believe that it is really time to cash in, and they are going to make some big time money. Whether or not the WWE Network hits immediately, who knows? But I think most people say that worst case scenario is that within a year or 2 years, it will be profitable and will be a very good investment for them. I kind of in that boat where I think I wouldn't be surprised if it went gonzo right off the bat, but I think the more realistic thing is you're doing okay to start, but you don't become profitable until you introduce it into international markets.
Yeah.
Because once you get that, now you're looking at, okay, we're more cost effective. We've got more people. And, now we're going to reach over that 1 million subscriber rate. For TV, I have no idea what they're going to do there. It depends on who's going to get into bidding. There's so many different interesting things that they can do. One of the things that I wanted to know about too was, okay, so they got all these Raws and SmackDowns, available on the network. They're going to make them available. Now, we all know right now Raw gets replayed on Hulu Plus, but not the entire Raw, like a 90-minute version of it.
Yes.
So what is the turnaround for putting Raw and SmackDown on the network once it launches? And does it have to be an abbreviated version right off the bat? I mean, do we have to say, can they put it up the next day? And if they do, does it have to be an abbreviated version? Can they put up the entire thing? Or can they put up an abbreviated version and then 2 months later they can put up the entire thing? I mean, there's a lot of little nitpicking things that are going to go into the negotiation for the new TV deal as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Raw and SmackDown, Brian, I think something else that I've blogged about is what I think this network does as far as how it impacts everybody as a fan, whether you buy the network or not, is it completely changes the way that WWE will be booking its product and presenting its product from here on out. Because, the old way of booking your product for years, I mean, since the 80s, was that you use your television to build up these pay-per-views. And before pay-per-view, it was you use your television to build up the house shows. And now you don't really need to build up the pay-per-views because you have all these people subscribing to the network anyway, so they're going to get the pay-per-views one way or the other. So now it's almost the opposite, kind of like how TNA has done it in the past, where you use these pay-per-view events, which, again, like you said, I don't even know if I want to call them pay-per-view events, but you use these big events to now build up your TV, which is completely different from the way that they had booked in the past. And I mean, I think there are positives and I think there are negatives. I think the big positive is you can take a guy like a Daniel Bryan, per se, and you can give him that push, you can give him that shot, you can take a chance on him because you don't have as much invested anymore as you would have before. Is Daniel Bryan going to draw the big buy rate? Is somebody going to pay $40, $50 to see Daniel Bryan challenge for the championship? That doesn't matter anymore. It's are they going to tune into the network if he's challenging or not? Who cares? They paid for it anyway. I think this really opens up a lot of opportunity for them to invest in building up younger talent and pushing new talent.
Oh, I agree. And that's the thing that they've even talked about is that they, especially when they go to the table with these different TV networks, is saying, you know what, we can use the network now to push our ratings, to push our TV product. That's what we want to do. So does that mean there's going to be more cliffhanger endings? Does that mean, at the end of a pay-per-view, in the past, they'd make sure they have a clean finish, but now maybe it's more of a disputed finish more often to where you've got to tune in to Raw to see exactly how this plays out.
Yep.
So, and that's something that I do not like, but that's where people talk about the diminished value in the pay-per-views and that people, WWE can say, well, okay, our pay-per-views are what they are. We do these special shows each month. Now, we can sit here and say maybe they're not as special as they once were because, we don't have to pay as much for them and everything like that. But WWE can say, well, we still believe that they're valuable. And for your $9.99, you're also getting the library. So they can even say, even if you think that you're not enjoying the pay-per-views as much as you were, there's got to be something about it you like. But you know what? Even if we didn't offer the pay-per-views, look at all these wonderful things you get for $9.99 a month. So they can sit there and go, okay, you can complain about all you want, but guess what? We're giving you a video library with countless hours of content. We're giving you new content on there. We're giving you pre and post shows for Raw and SmackDown. We're giving you original content. We're giving you all these other things. So you know what? Even if you don't like our pay-per-views, guess what, man? You are still getting your money's worth.
Yeah, and do you really honestly think that they're going to get 1 million people even in the first year? Because I don't. I mean, you look at what they're going for here. It's essentially like 25% of their Monday night audience. And, while that doesn't sound like a whole lot, I look at Classics on Demand, which was completely different, marketed different. I understand that. But I look at Classics on Demand. and I look at their monthly pay-per-views, and I look at some of these monthly pay-per-views where they're only getting, 85,000, 95,000, and I'm not as quick a mathematician as I used to be, but I sure know that's not 25% of the people that are watching on Monday nights. Now, of course, the price point is a lot lower, but I just think that for anybody to expect 25% of your audience to immediately sign up for this network or sign up for this network and keep your subscription rolling for a year, I think that's incredibly ambitious.
It is, and see, this is the argument that I will make, that some people will say it's not that great of an argument, but this is one of the arguments I'll make to why WWE has to keep those pay-per-views strong and valuable.
Yeah.
Because as much as we could talk about the value of that library and the original content and all that, to a lot of people that like watching wrestling, maybe they like the pay-per-views, but they can't afford them all. Maybe they can afford WrestleMania and they can afford the Rumble and maybe SummerSlam. Okay, so now they're only getting 3, but they go, man, I wish I could afford all 12, but I really can't. I got to be picky about it. Well, now they can afford everything. So you got to make sure that, to me, that you keep those pay-per-view events strong to appease those people, or else they could say, you know what? I didn't know what I was missing out on. I don't need it. I can see it on Raw every week, and if I want to still get WrestleMania or whatever, okay, I can get my 2 or 3 events a year and I can just order it old style pay-per-view.
Yeah. Yeah. At some point, Brian, I wonder if these 12 pay-per-views are all of a sudden going to go to 10 pay-per-views a year, and then all of a sudden go to 8 pay-per-views a year. Because with this new business model, there's not the urgency to do that pay-per-view every 3 weeks and to have your pay-per-view 12 times a year. I mean, quite frankly, there could get to a point where they just don't do these at all, and they just scale the production back and do more like a Sunday night fights or Saturday night's main event. There you go. They do Saturday night.
I think it's funny you say it because, when it was for a long time, a lot of us talked about with TNA, like, got to cut back on the pay-per-views, doing, and then they cut back to 4.
Yeah.
And I think they cut back too far even, which is something we didn't see. They went too far against the curve. So, maybe you could do that, but I don't think you can cut back to where, like some people said, like the good old days, you only had 4, and it's just a different climate and what people expect now. And when it comes to the feuds, we all like seeing well-played, long feuds, but is that always realistic? No.
And there's too much TV. I mean, when we were growing up, there were 2 hours a week. You had Wrestling Challenge and All Star Wrestling. That you had those 2 hours to build up for 4 months, 5 months, whatever it was. It's like now you have 5 hours, between Raw and SmackDown every week. So to be able to draw a storyline out for 4 months, 5 hours a week. I mean. Man.
Well, here's the crazy thing, too, when you talk about all that TV. 2 things. Number one, on the new TV contract, they want to do SmackDown Live. Yeah. Now, to me, okay, you can't do it on Wednesday because it disrupts schedules for the wrestlers and everything too much. So you've either got to do it, you're not going to do it on Monday, obviously, and they want to get it off Friday, okay? And I understand that. To me, the night that I would want is Thursday because while it's, still one of the most viewed nights in TV, when it comes to other programming, WWE has always, held up their numbers on that, so I don't think it would affect them too much. And it would split up the week when it comes to your programming.
Yeah. And you get all those and you have that big ad budget with all those new movies opening up on Friday.
Exactly. So you've got all that, but it sounds like they want to put it on Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, so now let me run through a week of yours if you're a big wrestling fan. Okay. So on Sunday night, I'm going to watch that 3-hour pay-per-view. But not only am I going to watch that pay-per-view, I'm going to watch the hour pregame show, and I'm going to watch the half hour to an hour postgame show, okay? So now I've just committed 4 to 5 hours for Sunday. Now on Monday night, guess what? It's Raw. But guess what? On this shiny new WWE Network, there's a 30-minute pregame show and a 30-minute postgame show, and I don't want to miss out on anything, so there's another 4 hours. Okay, so now I've committed between 8 to 9 hours. Now on Tuesday, there's a 2-hour SmackDown with a 30-minute pregame show and a 30-minute postgame show. There's another 3 hours. That's 11 to 12 hours, okay, within literally a 60-hour period.
Yeah.
If you want to watch everything.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours to commit a week. And I mean, and that's the other thing too. And I had some other topics I wanted to hit on, so I won't beat this too much. That's the other thing I thought about too. It's that, for somebody like me, and I know they're targeting people like us, older wrestling fans, not necessarily us because we're going to order anyway, but older wrestling fans that go out of their way to watch some of that old stuff on YouTube like I do, but aren't necessarily apt to buy Battleground per se, but for somebody like me, I work full time, I have a family, I go to school. I mean, I know not everybody does, but there's only so much time in the week, and I mean, even when things were different and I had a more flexible schedule, it's not like I was sitting on YouTube every night for 3 hours a night watching old shows. I'd maybe every couple weeks or here and there, if I had some time, but it wasn't like it was every night. It's like I can see a lot of people coming out of the gate with this, but I could also see a lot of people when their 6 months is up saying, after month 4, and I felt like this with Classics on Demand. I was all on board for Classics on Demand. Then after a couple of months, I was like, I don't have time to watch anyway. I could see a lot of people after those first, couple of months saying, I don't have a lot of time to watch anyway, and not renewing for that in 6 months.
Well, that's one of the things I got asked about in the investor call is people obviously can do that. They admitted George Barrios did, but at the same time, he says, we believe there's enough value that will keep it going. And that's going to be one of the big questions going into this. I think there's a lot of interest right off the get-go. Okay. There's a difference between interest and actually pushing the button saying I'm paying. But then there's a whole nother scope and saying, can we get people to keep doing it? Now, the way that I think it's very smart the way that they're doing it from a standpoint of it's okay. You have to commit 6 months at a time, but you only get billed on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So when you look at your credit card statement, you see $9.99. It doesn't gouge you. It doesn't stand out like, oh my God, I can't afford that. It's $9.99. And they do that, all the time. And your membership's automatically going to renew too, unless you tell them no.
Yeah.
Otherwise it will roll over. I mean, I found that out doing the baseball package every year where I thought, I wonder if I'm going to get it, And then next thing you know, I get an email going, thank you for resubscribing to.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one of the things that they're hoping. And it's kind of like with Netflix. It's kind of these other things, saying, you know what? It's not killing me. I still feel like I use it, and it's something that, I'm not going to worry about it if it keeps rolling over and I keep getting charged for it.
Yeah. Couple quick points I want to talk about with you. When it comes to pay-per-view, I think this there's a lot of people that are going to be watching how this plays out. Obviously UFC and obviously the boxing promoters, specifically Bob Arum, Floyd Mayweather, the guys that are actually making money at it these days. And for UFC, I know UFC is getting a lot of criticism because WWE is quote unquote blowing them out of the water with this network, but I almost wonder if UFC is doing it better because what they're doing is they're setting the plate for $10 a month without these pay-per-views. And if the UFC sees this thing working well for the WWE, the UFC can come back in 6 months, 12 months and say, okay, we're going to introduce a gold package. So you can keep the UFC network in its current state at $9.99 a month, but for $20 a month, for $25 a month, you get everything. You get all the pay-per-views. Or you could just pay $30 per pay-per-view exclusively online and not be committed to the network. I think that WWE just kind of putting it all out there while as a fan and a customer, of course, I think that's phenomenal and I love it and kudos to them. But looking at it from a business strategy, I almost like the way UFC went about this, going a little slower and not giving so much away for free, so to speak, right away, as opposed to WWE.
Well, they can let somebody else do all the hard lifting and see how it works. And you know what the other thing is too? Okay, so in the meantime, maybe they could take a little bit more advantage of the pay-per-view providers as well, from a standpoint of, oh, well, you guys are still a business with WWE and look what they did. So we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay working with you. So how about you grease the wheels here a little bit? How about, instead of a 50-50 split, maybe it's a 60-40 because we're staying with you, and we're loyal. And also UFC can get the benefit from all of this because, okay, if you've got this WWE network, who's not to say that In Demand says, you know what, we're going to run some ads for whatever WWE pay-per-view, but maybe we're not going to run as many. Oh, and there's a UFC show around that time. Maybe we'll give them the bulk share of those ads because that's where we're making our money.
Definitely, definitely, absolutely. It's the same thing with the with boxing as
Yep.
as well. Yeah, absolutely. You know, what'd be funny is if UFC and boxing were able to leverage this and turn it into that 60-40 deal, and then in 2 years WWE is like, well, hell, for 60-40, we'll go back in business with these guys and put their shows back on pay-per-view for the 60-40 split.
So that's one of the things that they got to be careful about is that they want to continue making money with them. They want to continue business with them. And, and that's got to be their fallout plan. I think the WWE Network will work. It's just how quickly does it work? And if it, for whatever reason, doesn't, excuse me, what else are they going to do?
Yeah.
And they don't want to have to go, all right, please take us back. And then the pay-per-view company just looks at them and chuckles and goes, guess what, buddy? It's a 70-30 split.
You're fired.
Right. So, I mean, they're going to hold them over a barrel and get a great deal out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, pirate streaming. Do you think that this pretty much kills the pirate streaming for WWE pay-per-view? Because I gotta think that while it might not entirely kill it, I think as far as the big picture, big revenue loss to pirate streaming, I think this is a hell of a way to curve that.
I do too. Because now it's only $10,
right?
Rather than going on there and having an ad pop up every 3 minutes,
or your stream die and you got to go look for another stream. Not that I know anything about this.
Right. So, yeah, I think it will help it a lot when it comes to that. I think one of the things we got to find out is, Netflix will readily admit that like 25% of the people that watch Netflix use it on a shared account.
Yeah.
So how many people can be logged in at the same time? So can you share your account with somebody else and can you watch at the same time? And if that's the case, how many people can do that?
You probably shouldn't, because think about it. Why wouldn't you and me and 10 other people get one account and just share it with each other?
Well, for Netflix, it's something like 3 people can log in at the same time, something like that. So maybe it'll be the same with WWE. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know back in the day, before Netflix instituted those extra charges, I mean, I know friends of mine, they would have an account and they'd say, here, use my email address, stream it whenever you want. And, all of us would just kind of, just pick and choose.
Right. Oh, hey, I'll be honest with you, man. I share a Netflix account with a family member.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and I mean, so I think they're going to have to curve it. I wouldn't be surprised if they curved it to 2 at a time. I wouldn't be surprised if they curved it to 1 at a time, because especially with wrestling fans, I could easily see us. I mean, look at WrestleMania. Look at how many people get together and chip in $10 to watch a WrestleMania pay-per-view. So I think
you got to keep it at least 2, because you could see where people can do 2 in the same house.
Yeah, brother, sister, dad, whatever,
stuff like that. Somebody's watching in the bedroom, somebody's watching in the living room, or even dad's out on business, but he wants to watch it, and the kids have access to it as well, and they're at home.
Yeah, definitely. And WrestleMania 31, Brian, do you think that's on the network for the for $9.99?
I do. I think they're all on it.
Yep.
Once you put one on there, that's the thing that I always wondered about. Like you can't, to me, pull the rug out from under everybody thinking, oh, you do it 1 year. I think everybody just assumes it's going to be there, and I think they have to deliver on that.
Yeah. I think if there's one thing that we've learned is that Vince McMahon is not afraid to fold him if he feels, if he feels it's not going his way with the XFL. I mean, the XFL was tanking, and he folded it. He lost a lot of money on it. I mean, devil's argument there could be the movie deal. I mean, the movie deal, I don't think it's made any money from everything that I've read, and yet they're still making these horrible movies. So you got to wonder what the what the shelf life of this network is if it struggles early on.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think they're prepared for, though, because. And that's why the TV deal is so important, because, if they increase the amount of money they make in their TV deal, that can cover any kind of losses or slow start that they get to the network.
Yeah. So
they can play it out. So it's not like, whoop, didn't work right off the bat. Well, we're covered because we're making X amount more in our TV deal. So that's why that is so important to the network. And I think, I don't know how many, I can't put a number on exactly what they do, but I'm like you. I don't think they're going to hit that 1 million mark right off the bat. But I think by the end of the year, beginning of next year, you get it in the UK and you get it in Canada, and you get it in a couple other places. I mean, I think right there's 300,000 or 400,000. So even if you domestically do around 700,000 or 800,000, by the end of the year, early next year, I think you'll hit your 1 million mark.
Yeah.
But who's not to say that, there is something that goes against the normal thinking, and it goes gangbusters right off the start. I mean, I would be a little surprised by that, but I wouldn't be shocked by it.
Yeah, I mean, an external factor again that could really impact this thing, and it's something that all of us are going to have to keep an eye on is this this case with Verizon and Netflix wanted to charge extra for the streams. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if WWE figured that in. Maybe, Brian, that's why they went with $9.99, because if they come back to you in 6 months or a year and say we got to raise it to $12 or we got to raise it to $11.99, it's like, okay, as opposed to if they came out of the gate with $20 or $15 and then all of a sudden they're raising it to $25.
Yeah, and that's going to be something that, they keep pounding, the $9.99. So I mean, they want to stick to that as much as possible, but that's something they're going to have to find out if that is really if that's realistic or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, as we wrap it up here, I know there are a lot of people out there, I'm still not convinced of this entirely, that believe there's a big crossover with UFC and WWE. Do you think that this benefits UFC in that now, people that are buying both pay-per-views, again, I don't know how much of a big crossover there is, but apparently people think there is. Do you think UFC sees a bump now that people can allocate more of their pay-per-view budget to UFC?
Well, I think that still depends on, is there something out there that they want to see, and to me, that's star quality. And that's something that UFC is greatly lacking on right now, because you've had, two of their biggest stars either go into semi-retirement or go down to injury.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the big thing for UFC is it sells on stars, just like WWE, and the star quality is not there right now. I mean, okay, who's their stars? Well, let's see. George St. Pierre is retired for now. Anderson Silva has his leg in two pieces.
He's not back until 2015 at the earliest.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, Ronda Rousey, that's your biggest star. I mean, I'm looking, some of the other ones. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, I lied. Final question. We touched on it earlier. CM Punk, do you think he resigns in the summertime?
I think he does, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he got a few months off and then came back. Maybe it's just a 1 or 2 year deal, but I think he'll be back.
Yeah, you think he'll be back? All right, Brian, this has been a lot of fun, and we'll definitely have to get back together again once the network launches, and we can kind of get our hands into it and see how it goes, and maybe it'll surprise us and blow us away. Oh, you know what? Something else I wanted to bring up with you. I'm sorry, I lied again. NXT. This was something that I brought up a lot in my blog, and I've had some conversation about it. I think it's a horrible idea for them to put NXT on this network. And I know that NXT is on Hulu, but to me, I think the only people that are going out of their way to watch NXT on Hulu are hardcore fans. Now you are promoting, not only are you putting NXT on your network, you're promoting it, you're giving it a big push. I mean, they gave it a big push at that presentation. And now you find yourself in a situation, take a guy like Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt came up as Husky Harris, wasn't working, sent him back to NXT, repackage them, and bring him back up. Now that you have this NXT in front of people's faces and you're pushing it, you're telling people to go out of their way to watch this new legion of young talent, this new legion of new talent come up. I think that you're really tying a hand behind your back because A, you're now putting these people out there in front of the WWE audience while they're green, while they're not ready, while they're going through gimmick changes. And now, how do you take a guy that you brought up to the big time and completely repackage him, put him down in NXT, everybody's seeing him, and they're like, wait a minute, that's Husky Harris. I just think that putting NXT out there the way they're doing and pushing it as heavily as they are is a horrible idea.
Well, I agree to some extent on that, but I think one of the things that they look at is, especially being a publicly traded company, is like we have got to make the most money that we can, and one of the ways to do that is we've got a show, and they want to promote it heavily because they believe it could be part of the TV contract, and they can get money to put it on TV and not even have it on the network.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why I do it. I mean, there are plenty of reasons not to do that, and why, when you've got younger guys and they're still trying to develop characters, why everybody shouldn't be able to see it. But you know what? They look at it and saying, you know what? We've got value here. There's going to be an audience for it. Whether how big that is remains to be seen. But if we can get this on a TV deal and that squeezes out an extra $20 million, then that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, the only positive I can see out of that is if you find somebody on there that catches lightning in a bottle you could do some big business with somebody that all of a sudden gets a little fan following, and all of a sudden you have a fan base that's invested into this guy. It's like I mean, Brian, I'm sure you've met the guy at the party that says, "I used to listen to Metallica when they were playing, the 200 Club." Now you have a whole groundswell of fans that get behind this one guy or girl, and all of a sudden, kind of follow them along on the way up, and they feel like they're a part of something and part of a culture with this wrestler. And I could have seen that with Daniel Bryan if NXT was out there like it is going to be. So I think there's a positive there that you could really catch lightning in a bottle with somebody and get your next big superstar rolling down there.
Yeah, you could potentially. I mean, that would be the grand slam out of all of it, and that'd be the best case scenario. But there's pros and cons definitely to NXT and putting it out there. So and we'll see. Who knows? Maybe it just stays on the network and they don't get a TV deal for it, and that's something that they push for the network. I mean, I know they're going to be pushing that. They're going to be doing the first one, live, and doing a 2-hour show. So.
Wow, can you imagine that? Not only are half these kids green to begin with, now you're telling them you're going to put them on TV live on the network, and I believe that's going to be during the free trial run. Am I right?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God, those poor kids.
Want to be a star? Here you go, kid. All right, let's do it.
Exactly. All right, buddy. Listen, speaking of putting it out there, why don't you tell all the great listeners here of the podcast where they can find more of your great work?
Just go to BetweenTheRopes.com, and you can follow that on Twitter at Between the Ropes, or you can follow me personally on Between the Ropes at Brian Fritz.
All right, Brian, this is great. And again, we'll definitely, once they roll it out there with that free first week, let's get back together and kind of talk about it, see what it looks like once it's actually out there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. Thank you very much for joining the Camel Clutch Blog podcast. You can subscribe, of course, on iTunes.com. Link to the iTunes subscription is probably in the player that you use to play this right now, or you can just check out camelclutchblog.com frequently as we put up new podcasts once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. All right. Thanks for joining us, he said.
Right. That's what you were doing this morning. I was watching a pay-per-view. Mm-hmm.
The battleground of all pay-per-views?
He wanted to make sure that the criticism was justified or not.
Yeah, I was just watching Night of Champ. I was just watching, the ECW December. I mean, he'll just run down the worst pay-per-views in the company. I could have watched WrestleMania 2000. I could have watched WrestleMania, from last year. But I watched Battleground this morning.
I would have preferred if you had done something like, since I have access to this library, and he pulled out something really cool, and everybody's like, oh, man.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into the network. So I've been accused of being a little bit of a negative Nancy, so to speak, when it comes to the network. I've been blogging about it quite a bit over the last couple of months, and I see a lot of hurdles that they have to overcome. I think it's a great idea, but first, I guess, big picture here, Brian, is my concern is that it's too good too soon. In that I don't know if the technology entertainment.
They are saving that presentation for when they do the pitch for TV. Because that will help with the numbers. Spending more money. We're sport. Yeah, we're entertainment, but so is NBA, and so is NFL, and so is hockey, and so is baseball. They're entertainment as well. It's just we have a better grasp on entertainment, but we're sport as well. We're like you guys.
Yeah, it's like we were just telling them that we were entertainment, but we're really sport. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Exactly. Like you and I, we've been doing this for a while, so we know each other better. We can cut through all the bull. We know. We're sport. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you know what else? To wrap up the presentation, what was probably my favorite part of the entire presentation was, I think his name was Preston. Was that his name, Preston?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to pick on him, but I thought it was very funny that of all of the videos and all of the media available in this brand and this grandiose WWE library online, Preston had just got done watching Battleground again.
Right. What was it, Battleground or was it Royal Rumble? He was watching a pay-per-view that morning. I was like,
it was Battleground because I tweeted about it. It was definitely Battleground. Welcome to another edition of the Camel Clutch Blog Extra podcast. And today I'm joined once again by a man who's turning out to be my partner in podcast crime, Brian Fritz of BetweenTheRopes.com. Brian, how are you today?
Good. Do we get a cool sound effect like the old Batman show?
Maybe next time. Maybe next time. Maybe when I'm a little more prepared. Well, and I'll give you a whole presentation like the network. I'll give you a whole presentation.
I like that. I like the grandiose music.
My favorite, Brian, was seeing the guys like that Preston and that Michelle get their own entrance music. I thought that was tremendous.
Sure, why not, man? That's the funny thing about WWE. And I'm not saying it's not professional; it's just what they are. But it's funny that they roll out these big professional, presentations and everything, and everybody still comes out to their own music if they are actually performers in the company.
It's the best. It's the best. And, before we move any further, that's what we're here to talk about today is WWE Network. We're going to throw around what we know, maybe get a little inside information here from Brian, talk about the presentation is there yet in everybody's house to accommodate this kind of streaming media. I don't know if enough people have the infrastructure to do it. I don't know if the WWE, I know they're using MLB's packaging, MLB's technology. I don't know if their technology is there yet. I think it's a great idea, but I almost think it's a little bit too soon.
Well, that's one of the things that they talked about even when they did the conference call the other day was talking about the overall value. And I think WWE would have loved to have charged more money, and I'm sure investors would have too. And I think maybe they could have gotten the same number of viewers or subscribers when it comes to, instead of pricing themselves at $9.99, maybe $12.99 or $14.99. And then you're getting more money, obviously, for the same value or for the same library and everything that you're getting. It's just, I think they were worried about the price point because they are going to be compared to Netflix and Hulu Plus and everything like that. So they wanted to make sure, like, we keep the price competitive. We don't want people going, well, look at Netflix, man. They're only $7.99.
Yeah.
And we cost,
Before we actually get into the meat of the network, what'd you think of the presentation?
I thought the presentation was really good. I know some people thought maybe it was a little bit cheesy, but you know what? A presentation is supposed to be towards the wide array of an audience. So I thought they did a really good job. In trying to give out as much information about it as you can. I mean, there's always going to be questions about it, but when you look at the entire scope of everything and be able to show some of the functionality of it, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. What I took away from that, at least in the beginning anyway, was, I'd heard for a while, and I'm sure you have as well, that they've really been trying to position themselves as sport with their deals coming up and trying to get one of those sports contracts from one of the big networks. And what was really interesting to me is that they've been trying to position themselves as sport for the last several months, yet this whole presentation, no sport whatsoever. This was all about entertainment. There was very little wrestling in the videos. I mean, it was as if this was an entertainment company and, forget about sport, forget about wrestling. It's just pure